And it is really exciting because it is the base of all algebra. It is something you're going to do when you get to high school in Algebra 1, when you get to junior year Algebra 2, when you take pre-calculus your senior year. This equation work is huge in your math life, and we get to intro it today. I want you to first look at just this problem that says find x. We have been building some expressions that looked kind of like this. What is different from the problem you're asked to find today and something we did last few days? What is different about that? Chad?
The thing that's different is x is equals a number and t is a whole number, not a variable.
We only have one variable in an equation. And when you're asked to find, put it away please, all the way, thanks. When you're asked to find an equation, you can only do that if you're given one variable. We have been making things with like two variables because we just didn't know information. They now give us two numbers with one variable. Here's what we're going to do. First, the equation is like an expression, but with an equal sign and one variable. In order to solve this, we're going to use something called inverse operations, which means the opposite operation. What is the opposite of addition? Daniel? It's subtraction. Yeah. I'm gonna pause you and I'm gonna let you turn and talk to your partner, unless you were doing it the joking way. Okay, good. Then I will call on you. So the opposite of subtraction is addition. And Daniel, can you find x? Where is it in this first example? There it is. Circle it! Ha ha ha, you found an x, you found another x. Look at that. Look, I found another x. This is the easiest math problem in the world, Mr. McAtee. Man, I should have done this in kindergarten. All right, enough silliness. Obviously, that's not the only thing we're doing today. When we find x, what we mean is we want to get x by itself because we need to find what makes this true if I plug a number in. We don't know the number for x, but I could maybe look at that thing, and I bet some of you, if given like 30 seconds and a partner, could maybe start guessing and checking. What plus 7 would equal a negative 5? Turn and talk and start plugging in numbers. What number could I put in here? It's not 1, that's 8 equals negative 5. It's not 2. Let's try negatives. Negative 10 plus 7 is negative 3. That's not equal. What number is negative? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I heard a few of us got to the answer, and this is a pretty simple one, so maybe most of us could get to it. I'm going to start it out with the answer, but then we're going to work back to actually find the steps to get there. Logan, what was the value of x? Let's test it. If x equals negative 12, does it make this true? Negative 12 plus 7 is on the left side. Let's separate the equal sign to see if we actually made this work. Does this left side equal the right side with a negative 12? Yeah, 12 fighting a 7 is negative 5. You just found a number for x that makes this true. It is the only number for this equation that will work. So you know the x value is negative 12. This is the mental way of doing it, and if you're given a one-step equation, I bet today most of you could solve it mentally once you get the hang of it. However, I don't want you to do that today. There is a process to this. When you're given an equation with one step, you're going to look at what's happening to the x. And the x right now is being added to 7. I'm going to do the opposite of adding 7 to this left side and to the right side and see what happens. subtract 7, and I'm going to write it right below. Subtract 7 and make a line. Well, what happens when I do 7 minus 7? Daniel, it makes 0. Yes. What happens when you subtract negative 5 from negative 7? You get negative 12, they band. What did you just find? The same answer. I am well aware that you just did that mentally, and a few of you guys were like, well, if I can do it mentally, then why do I have to even try to, uh-oh, my band-aids are gone. I might send to the office. Let's see, how much left? Okay. Can you get a paper towel, or do you need a band-aid?
I can get a paper towel.
Yeah, let's get your band-aid. That happened at recess?
Make sure they put an ice pack on it.
I don't think you're.
I
I don't
slipped
think
on the
you're needed.
de-icer.
Okay. There you go.
It's called salt.
The de-icer.
All right, back on track. 3, 2, 1.
No, it's called the de-icer.
Voices off. 3, 2, 1. Okay. We are going to fill in some steps, and then this process right here. This is the step-by-step process I need to see. The equations are going to get a lot harder heading into 7th and 8th grade. This is more about showing work than actually solving problems today. So here's your steps. Our whole goal is to isolate the variable. And to solve, we need to isolate, which means to put the variable by itself. Do you notice how the x is by itself on the left side? That means you just found the answer. Isolate means to place by itself. And to isolate a variable, we undo everything we've done to this variable by using inverse or opposite operations. Inverse operations. So we start with addition and subtraction, then we move up the pyramid. We do the opposite of whatever is happening. To maintain equivalency with an equation, you have to do the same thing to both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. That is called maintaining equivalency. Mason. I did, I think. Yep. If you're ready to go on thumb up. Some pencils are writing. Put your hands down. Good little tricky person. Okay. Row on about 10 more seconds. And moving on. So let's look at example 1. And I'm going to show you in 2 ways what's happening to this thing. If I were to set this thing up with algebra tiles, it means like we use those little dots with plus or minus signs. And this is going to be a 8 bad guy section. So let's put 8 bad guys on this side of the equal sign. There's also a G hanging out. You can put the G next to the bad guys. Our goal is to get the G by itself. On this side of the equal sign, how many good guys are there? There's 5. So let's put 5 good guys. Okay. I'm showing you algebra tiles just for you to visualize it, but this is not what I want you to show on homework or the rest of this unit. This is just for your visual. In order to get these by the G by itself, to isolate G, what would I have to add to those 8 bad guys to make them cancel? What would I combine with 8 bad guys to make those cancel? Justice. Yeah. So let's add it to both sides. So let's see if that actually worked. We canceled that one. They fight, they die. 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 You just added 8 good guys, and you're left with just a G. That's what you wanted. But you can't stop here. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Maintain equivalency. If you add 8 good guys to the left side, you have to add 8 good guys to the right side. There's 8 good guys, and they're hanging out with 5 good guys. How many total good guys are on this side? Chad?
13 good guys.
There are 13. That is your answer. Okay, let's try the same thing, but let's do it with the steps for equations. Tessa, question or comment? Very good question. You're getting the 8 good guys from algebra land, from the rules of algebra. And the rules of algebra say you can add anything to the left and right side as long as it's the same. I could add 100 good guys to the left and 100 good guys to the right. It wouldn't help me solve the problem though. The reason why I chose to add 8 is because I wanted to cancel this negative. So you're going to choose to add whatever number is going to get the g by itself. Whatever number gets the variable by itself, you add that amount of number or subtract the number from that side. It doesn't, because you're doing it to both sides. Because you're doing it to both sides, it is equal. And this is one of those like mind-blowing math tricks that you have never done before, and it just gets introduced in 7th grade. You guys are doing it a year early. So just hang with me for a little bit and you'll kind of start to get more comfortable, but it is a weird feeling to just make a number appear out of seemingly nowhere. I do get that, and thanks for bringing it up. Yeah.
Can I answer a question?
Yeah.
She gets the good guy. You get the good guys from the good guy getting first.
Sure. Okay, let's go to number 8. The right side, g minus 8 equals 5. Here's how I show this. Track the board. Track the board. Sean, thanks. This is like cool and all, but that is not what I want you to show on homework. I want you to show these steps. So put like 2 stars on this section, or circle it, or put a smiley face. This section is what you need to show work for. When you have a negative 8 next to the g, it is g minus 8. I'm doing the opposite of subtracting 8 to do the inverse. The opposite of minus 8 is add 8. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So I'm adding 8 to both sides. Negative 8 plus 8 cancels. That's what I wanted. What's left over on the left side, Cameron? What's left over here? What's left over here? If you canceled the 8s, what's left over? It's g, and that's what I wanted to get the answer. On the right side, what's left over? 5 and 8. Colton? 13. You just found your answer. G is isolated, and it equals 13. Okay, example 2. This time you have h plus 15 equals 12. Draw a line down the equal sign. This shows me what I'm trying to do to both sides. I want h to be isolated. The opposite of adding 15 is what, Hadley? Yeah, raise your hand if you have a question, or just let our team think if I call on you. So this 15 minus 15 is going to cancel. That's what I wanted. The h is left. I'm left over with 12 minus 15. It looks a little weird because I'm stacking these, but when you're doing equations, I want you to get used to stacking it. If you're having a hard time doing that problem, 12 minus 15 stacked, use scratch work to the right of your problem. 12 minus 15 becomes what? Mason. Bad guys win, and there are 3 of them. That is your answer. Circle it. Last one. Use inverse operations to solve these one-step equations. This time, what is weird about the problem? Turn and talk to your partner. Go. Any partner. Number 3. Three, two, 1. All right, I heard a few things. Row 2, row 3, I didn't quite hear, but I'm guessing we may have caught the same thing. Chad, what did you notice?
I noticed that instead of the equal being on the right side, it's on the left side.
In an equation, you can flip-flop them and it means the same thing. So I'm going to still work with this equation, how it's written. And instead of moving the 12 over, that doesn't help me isolate the x. I'm going to start wherever the x is. So find the x and start with that number. What's the opposite of adding 34 to an x. Avery.
Subtracting 30.
Yeah. And do you guys see why I probably don't want you using algebra tiles for a problem like this? Drawing 34 dots isn't going to be very efficient. So we're not going to always use the good guy, bad guy algebra tile. Let's go ahead and subtract it, cross out, and x is by itself. That's what I wanted, but it's on the right side. We'll deal with that at the end. You have 12 minus 34. Show your scratch work. Make sure you're attending to precision with the signs. Raise your hand when you have that answer. 12 minus 34 would be, got 7, 8, 9. Raiden, what's my answer? And is it positive or negative? You're fine. You're on the right track. If 12 is a good guy and 34 is a bad guy, who would win? You'd be like adding more bad guys to the good guy group. They fight. So does the bad guy group win or the good guy? Yeah, bad guys are a bigger number. 12 minus 34 is the same thing as a good guy 12 fighting a bad guy 34. Negative 22 is your answer. When you get something like this, if you were to write negative 22 equals x on your test, you'd get 100%. However, it's algebraically and mathematically more correct to always just get in the habit of writing x first. So you can flip these around. It's the same thing. I won't mark you wrong. But just get in the habit of putting x first when you get your answer. If x ends up on the right side, just flip it around so x is first. Cool. Okay. You have partner practice. Be careful. When you're doing these problems, and the more you do them, you're going to get the hang of it possibly pretty quickly. I do not want you circling the answer and moving on without work. If you just write the answer as negative 15, I'm going to give you a brand new packet possibly and assign it for homework. I need to see this work, and if you need to pull some scratch work to the sides, showing me what you're actually doing. You should have each step outlined by lines. You should show me when it cancels, and then have the y isolated. You're fine. I'm going to be even pickier than setting up fractions or decimals with like building snowmen. This is the pickiest Mr. McT gets in math. If you don't set up your work to look like this, I'm going to give you a blank piece of paper, a blank packet to redo. You need to show your work step by step. You have to. It is going to get really intense in 8th grade with like 3 or 4 or 5 step equations. Right now you have 1 step, so it's like, this is easy. I don't have to show work. The point of it is to get a habit. You need to show your work so that you know what to do when it gets really hard. Okay? Monday will get slightly trickier, but this I am aware is pretty easy to do. It's a minus then. You notice how I did the minus right there? So did you, you can't do a 10 plus 10 because that makes it 20. So you have to do the opposite. Always do the inverse.
Oh, what is that? Did I miss that? It's 9 minus 8. Yeah. Right there. There is no 3. Right? It's on $3. That's the number. That's the problem that you're on.
Raise your hand if you did not get a homework page while we finish the row 4. You guys got homework? If you have a homework page, you may pack up. But that
Bro, that was.
No.
Oh, we get the tape. This is yours. Sorry, I didn't see it. Prove it.
If you did not get homework for tonight, it is above the bin. Grab it on your way out. And you guys are out.
Do we even throw away this? Do we even throw away this? Are you sure? Where's the test? I don't know where you. Oh yeah. We're still not sitting two stuff.
That's crazy. Okie doke, it's time to go. If your chair is pushed in, have a good weekend. Thanks for all your hard work. Goodbye. Bye. If your chair is pushed in, goodbye. Hi. Bye. Hi. Bye. You can go. Lauren and Lauren, can you push in your chair? Uh-oh. Is that Tessa? Who sits there? Lauren? Okay. Okay. Noise.
How long does it take to fix a Chromebook?
It depends on the issue.
Like a screen?
Do you have? Yes, please.
Like, do you know like a new screen?
I don't know.